Hello everybody, and thanks for tuning in to Joe and Zach's Survival. Tonight we're going to be making jerky. This here is a simple recipe, very similar to what my dad uses, but instead of smoking the meat, we are going to be using a dehydrator. This is a method that I use, being that I live in an apartment, and I make jerky this way a couple times a year, and it tastes very, very similar to how my dad does it, just a little less smoky, but the main ingredients are about the same. What you're going to need is you're going to need some soy sauce, some Worcestershire sauce, I probably butchered that, red pepper, black pepper, and then some garlic powder. You can also use garlic cloves. You'll need 2 of the small triangle cloves. And then you'll also need 1.5 to 2 pounds of flank steak. There you go. So this is 1.84. So it's kind of right in the center. First of all, I'm going to wash my hands, and then we're going to start to process the beef here. There's a couple different ways we can cut it, so I'll explain that, and then we'll get to making the brine and having it sit in the brine for overnight. And then tomorrow we will put it in the dehydrator, and by tomorrow night we'll have jerky. So let's get started. Okay, so here we are. We opened the package up for our flank steak. This is a really good cut. Now, I've used this type of flank steak. I've used shoulder blade. I've used pretty much anything, you know, the deal of the day. It all works well, but this is the most commonly used cut for jerky. So what we're going to do first is on pretty much every beef product, they'll have this silver skin, and when you make jerky, this silver skin is going to get really I don't know really how to explain it. It gets really chewy, almost inedible, kind of has maybe a tart taste at times. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to process it. This piece is really, really good, but we are going to just go through, and you're going to want to cut off the little silver skin, I believe it's called, off of here. And that's going to make your jerky just 100 times better. So, okay, so now we have went through and processed the meat to where we have barely any of the silver skin. I see I got a little bit in here. What we're going to do now is we're going to talk about how to cut the jerky. There's really no wrong way to cut it, but you can either cut against the grain or with the grain. If you cut against the grain, you're going to get a less chewy piece of jerky, and it's gonna fall apart more, obviously, because it doesn't have very much structure holding it together. If you cut with the grain, you're going to get a more chewy piece, but it's not going to fall apart as much in processing it into jerky. So it's really up to you. I would say if you like, you know, gas station style, you know, store-bought jerky, I believe that's probably cut across the grain because it's easier to chew and it falls apart into little pieces. If you want like more of a real original piece of jerky, cut with the grain. Another good tip is if your meat is semi-frozen, like if you take it out and let it thaw for a little bit but she's still frozen, it makes it really, really easy to cut. This is completely thawed, so it's going to be a little bit of a pain, but we're going to go ahead and I'm going to cut with the grain all the way across. And you want to obviously get it into some thinner pieces, but really the thickness is up to you. So you can decide that on your own. Let's see here. What I think I'm going to do, I think I'm going to cut this piece in half. There we go. And then I'm going to just start making my my strips. Alright, so we've processed our meat into nice strips. So you can see it creates quite a bit of meat. Now we have to get our brine ready. We'll just go through it here. You're going to need 2/3 of soy sauce, 2/3 of the Worcestershire sauce, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder and black pepper, and then 1 teaspoon of the red pepper flakes. You can use more or less depending on how much of a kick you want it to have. I normally use, you know, the regular 1 teaspoon. It seems to be more than enough. So just go ahead here and get to her. Two-thirds. Okay, now we're going to take a mixing spoon and we're actually just going to try to mix up the contents. Hopefully you guys can see that. The pepper likes to just kind of sit on the top, but if we mix her up here, you kind of want to get it all evened out at least across the top. So when you drop that meat in there, it'll be an even coating. Okay, so it's pretty even here, for the most part. There we go. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to put the meat in. And it doesn't seem like a lot of brine, but it is more than enough for, you know, a 2-pound piece of meat. Kind of set her in there, get it all evened out. Kind of mix it slightly to get all the pieces covered. And what I'll do now is I'm going to put this into the fridge and I'm going to let it sit overnight. I have done it before where I let it sit for 3 to 4 hours and it turned out pretty much the same, but overnight is what it calls for, so we'll just do her overnight. Okay, we have the meat in the fridge overnight. I thought I would go through and show you guys a dehydrator. This is a very simple one right here. They make all sorts of them. You guys have seen my dad's. His is a really nice one. This one here was 30 bucks at Fleet Farm, I believe, which is pretty much the going price for this style, and works beautifully. It's very, very simple. It's just on off on the front of it here. It's just an on and off switch, and it has these stackable, I guess you would call them racks, plastic racks. Really, you can really clean this easily. You just put them in the dishwasher, but they just stack one on the other. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, and you put the top on. They do make some of these that are adjustable in temperature. This one here is just a plug and play pretty much. Just plug her in, put your meat, or you put fruits, vegetables, whatever, and turn it on. It does it all itself. Okay, so we've let the meat sit overnight in the brine, and now we're just going to put it on the dehydrator. To start with the first rack here. It's pretty self-explanatory. You just want to spread it all out. Alright, you suck. Alright, we have put all the meat onto the racks, and it's actually pretty perfect the amount of meat that I had. So 2 pounds for this style of dehydrator is pretty maxing it out. Next up, we just put the lid on and then start her up. And I'll let this dry for probably about 2 hours, and then I'm going to flip the racks around and I'll put the bottom on the top on the bottom, and that way it kind of evenly dehydrates everything, because the stuff on the bottom is going to get drier first. Okay, it's been 2.5 hours, and as you can see what the jerky looks like now, this top row is starting to get dried out. This is actually pretty easy. I'm just going to stack them the opposite way and put it back on there. Here's the bottom row. It's actually yeah, probably 2/3 done. Alright, there you go. So they're all flipped around, and now we're just gonna start dehydrating them again. What I'll end up doing is I'll probably end up flipping them back towards the end, but for the next 2.5 hours or so, they will be this way. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all this and I'm going to try to put it into one container. If I have to do 2, I'll do 2. Oh man, this tastes good. Also, one thing to consider when you're cutting your jerky in the beginning is how big of a container you have, or how wide. But I'll show you here in a minute, all this jerky in here. This is actually going to get kind of a condensation look to it, and what's going to happen is the dry pieces and the fattier pieces, it's all going to, being that it's warm, it's all going to kind of mix together, and you're going to get a really nice even texture to your jerky, I guess you could say. So it's just been a couple of minutes, and I don't know how well the light's going to show you guys this, but hopefully you can kind of see the haziness on the inside of the glass here. This is like the worst time to do it. It's like midnight, but you, if you put this in the fridge, when it cools down, it's going to get a little bit hard. So if you want a softer product, leave it out on the counter. Jerky is really up to you on how you want to make it, but you know, there's different ways to cut it. There's different spices and stuff you can add to it. It's definitely something that you can experiment with and really make your own style. My dad, he's tried many different recipes, but everybody loves his old-fashioned jerky recipe. Me, I've tried many different ones. I kind of stick to this one now. But there's no saying what I'll try next time. You can cut it 2 different ways. You can put different spices on it. You can put it in the fridge. You can keep it out. It's really, you can make it what's yours, and that's what's cool. This here was how much was that meat? 14 or 15 bucks, and then I had to get $5 worth of spices. So for 20 bucks, I made probably a pound and a half of jerky. And what would that cost you in the gas station? A lot more. So definitely worth making it yourself. Anyways, guys, thanks a lot for watching the Joe and Zach Survival channel, and I will see you guys in the next video.